So in today's clip, I want to give you a cynical love fest on why UBI, or Universal Basic Income, aka Freedom Dividend, is a great idea. I mean, especially for me. Hey, yo, Zempak here. Another day, another way of dreaming up how to make money that involves basically no work. So if you're here for one reason or another, comment, like, and subscribe, because you too are starting to realize that the regular work grind is really for the past and not the future that you want. So, I'm making today's clip because Andrew Yang's in the news again because he wants to run for the mayor of New York, my old city. And since he came into prominence talking about a single policy point of wanting to give everyone in the USA a universal basic income, and presumably now it's everyone in NYC, let's take a look at this idea and see if we can find some pros and cons with it, okay? Maybe both in these major points that a UBI would provide, okay? Point number one. Everyone loves money, right? Who can't use more money? This is a G a month we're talking about for every US adult. Now, the for everyone part is important because if you only give it to some people but not others, the other people will cry foul. So only when it's given to everyone is it a dividend, like the Yang Gang calls it, rather than welfare for the select. Usually as a cynic, the first thing I think of when I hear free anything is, well, nothing's really free in life, right? So where does this money come from? More taxes on me? Actually, no. In this particular case, the new tax is essentially on the giant tech companies of the world, right? So it will cost those companies, which may lead those companies to pay their employees less. And guess what? These new giant tech companies already hire proportionally way less people than the monopolies of the past, right? And generally, they pay more for their, smaller amount of employees. But hey, I already left that world, so great if they start paying less people less now, okay? It makes me feel even better to have left that grind. Okay, point number two, might make work optional. Here's the thing, if you think you can live on $12K a year comfortably in the US, I'd say your standards must be akin to that of a monk. It's just not enough, okay? Frankly, this can be looked at as both a pro and a con. Pro because if your standards are really that minimal, this is it. You never have to work again, okay? Awesome. You've reached the holy land of fire, technically, through no work of your own, via the government. But frankly, I think for most people who are still prone to, things like peer pressure, I think a universal basic income, all that would provide is keep people from starving, okay? I mean, I do believe that most people have pride in their hearts and would try to make something of themselves, okay? Plus, as a cynic, for those who don't and just want to do nothing whatsoever ever again, they will self-select and wither away. I'm fine with that. I mean, can you imagine a lazy person like that, but still trying to actively find a mate? So I think this type of behavior will simply get it weeded out at the genetic level eventually, okay? Point number three, it removes the very curious idea that currently some people would get less money from getting a job than leaning on the old welfare system. Okay, I love this bit, okay? Because, come on, if I thought getting a job would decrease my income, at least in the short term, I probably would have to think twice about going that route as well, right? Instead, with a UBI in place, there's no downside, right? Getting a job means going up, making more money. Again, I believe that for most people, we do have a desire to win at something, at anything. So having a base like UBI would let us go forward and use our brains on productive endeavors rather than just how to game the system to survive, right? I mean, will it work out perfectly? Who knows? But we should try something new, as the current welfare system certainly doesn't seem to be decreasing the poverty rates like we think it should, right? Okay, point number four, will it cause inflation because of increased ability to buy? This actually was my main concern when I first heard about UBI, right? It seems like landlords would just charge more for rent because they know everybody has, at a minimum, more money, right? In reality, I think that maybe at the beginning of the program, something akin to that will happen, but not to the extent we think, right? Mainly because there's no price parity within the USA in terms of cost of living, right? So people on the bottom of the scale will simply move and redistribute to wherever this kind of increase will happen less. Plus, as a cynic, I forgot that I am a landlord. So any amount of more rent that I can get is good for me, right? All right, all kidding aside, I think general inflation on goods and services may also occur, but here's the thing. The only people who are scared of inflation by itself are those dependent on wages set by other people. And that's not me. My income is based purely on what I have put into the market and based on essentially my bet on the US economy or the world economy as a whole. So inflation actually doesn't really bother me. As prices rise, companies will make more money and their value will adjust accordingly, right? Maybe not absolutely, but certainly quantitatively. And since not everyone's in the market, those who are more in there proportionally, like me, will do even better. Okay. Now, final point. This one is kind of a strange one that I saw on a pro list for UBI, but to me is actually more of a con. Okay. And the point they made was this. Young couples would have more money to start families in countries with low birth rates. Okay, I suppose because it just said young couples would have more money to start families. That's true. But, you know, because I'm a cynic, my mind went to, you meant like two adults who both want to stay at home. Because they combined in the scheme that Yang has proposed would get $24,000 a year. Okay, if that's the case, I would strongly suggest waiting until one or both of them has not only had a job but has worked 5 to 10 years, so their income is at least above the median level for the country that they live in. Right? My God, you know, just the mere idea that someone would want to have a kid just because they now have a free income of $24,000 a year just seems terrifying to me, all right? Because this is the segment of the population that can least afford a baby, right? Now, I totally get nationally you need the birth rate to be something like 2.3 to 2.5 to sustain any country's workforce, right? But to me, the incentives for higher birth rate should be aimed at the higher end of the economic scale rather than the lower end, right? The whole reason why Yang was talking about UBI to begin with is to counter the effects of automation, right? And this, you know, some website or paper wants to suggest that segment of the population, you know, who are just at the minimum level should be popping out the babies. It's irresponsible, right? Because these are the people whose parents probably would have been, their old jobs would have been automated away, right? So they are not the type of people who can afford to have a baby, right? And to educate that baby to be even more scared of automation rather than trying to, you know, get jobs that will never be replaced by robots. In conclusion, though, I think still UBI is a great idea. Naming it Freedom Dividend, even better, because it sounds like a financial instrument rather than a giant welfare program, okay? Again, even in my conclusion, I'm going to be a cynic and add another caveat, right? I think this idea would work better for the whole country rather than a single city because it's easier to game a system when you can easily take money from one city and, you know, to kind of just move somewhere even cheaper that doesn't have the dividend, aka it won't also have the type of inflation involved, right? But still, even with those caveats, I love this idea. And if it's only going to start getting implemented, but it's being implemented in the largest city in the United States, I'd say this would be some social experiment to behold. What do you guys think? Let me know. And in the meantime, check out some of my other clips in the corners above. Cheers.